Hello everyone, and here I'm about to talk about the wolf concept, the wolf economy. The Mongols from the ancient times believed that we came from the eternal sky. The eternal sky sun, wolf, descended on earth and made it with a beautiful deer. And it produced people. And Mongols believed that we came from the direct descendants of the wolf. It is documented in history books. Jack Weatherford was talking about it. Now, my fellow YGL, Bjarke Ingels, just mentioned that Danes associate themselves with a swan. China is associated with a dragon. And Mongolia needs to find its own animal to associate with. So, I'm proposing the wolf. The Mongolian history is a bumpy one. We had ups and downs. Once upon 800 years ago, we conquered half of the known world, created the largest landmass empire in the history of the humankind. We have been struggling. Whenever we were divided, we were ruled by the others. The end of the 20th century saw us come to realization of many generations of Mongolian, our fathers and grandfathers' dream, which was the freedom, the sovereignty of Mongolia, the true sovereignty and true independence from any one of our neighbors. We have very mighty two neighbors. In the last 20 years, when we were doing the transition to a market economy led by the private sector, when we were trying to instill the value, the democratic values into the fabric of the society, we have always carried with us a big hope, a belief, a dream that Mongolia will come to prosper again. The last 20 years, there were many stories I heard, both in Mongolia and internationally, that Mongolia had a very interesting and rich history, but no future. Come 21st century, the first decade of the 21st century, we saw the rise of Asia. And we saw something that we didn't realize before. The two nations that were our neighbors, and the fact that we didn't have a seaport was viewed as a single largest impediment to our development. The fact that we had few people was viewed as also a constraint. The fact that we had a big landmass with underdeveloped infrastructure was a big challenge for us. Now, with the rise of the dragon economy, China, in the 21st century, with the increasing demand for commodities, with the growth of the population in the world, all the factors that we thought were our weaknesses, were our challenges, turned into opportunities. The growth in China fueled demand for commodities such as copper, zinc, iron, gold, coal, etc. Where Mongolia was blessed with a landmass that is equal roughly to the size of the Western Europe. That landmass contained the golds and riches that were preserved by our ancestors and were handed out to us. The fellow YGL, Oyun, just mentioned the numbers, some numbers about the budget. You saw the staggering growth in the fiscal revenue. You also see the rise in the spending. This is just the beginning of a fairy tale. She didn't mention the figure for the first 7 months of this year, the growth of Mongolia in the first 7 months. The GDP grew in nominal terms 29.1%. I think this number has never been experienced before anywhere in the world, in the history of the humankind. This is just the start. The budget is in surplus. We need to spend, as you mentioned, the money wisely. We need to invest the money not just to share the proceeds of the riches of Mongolia to the current generation. We need to make sure that this wealth is equally distributed amongst all people in Mongolia. It is equally distributed between generations yet to come. The phenomenon that we are about to experience, I want to call it the wolf concept. The economy that we are building, I want to call it the wolf economy. Why wolf? The wolf is a smart animal. It's a strong animal. It is flexible, adaptable to any environment. It is very fast. And most importantly, it can work in teams. And in teams, they go hunting when it's needed. They are a loving animal, they create families, and they raise their cubs. The attributes of the wolf, the animal that Mongols worship from the ancient times, are the attributes that our economy will need to have. We need to be strong, we need to be fast, we need to be adaptable, we need to be flexible, nimble, and we need to work in a team as a nation so that we can overcome the growth challenges. Because one thing is to have no money and have problems, but then if you have too much money, it creates problems, such as Dutch disease, such as the mineral resources curse that we talk about a lot these days. So the government faces those challenges. The previous speaker again mentioned the issue of populism. Too much cash gives incentive to politicians to just disperse it in an easy way, and that is just hand out ready cash to its people. But Mongolia needs to build the basic infrastructure. We need to build the legal environment. We need to educate our young people. We need to build a proper system for healthcare. There are many countries that went ahead of us along the same path, depending on exports of mineral resources that were endowed with natural resources. We need to adapt from these countries the best experiences. There is Chile, there is Norway, Australia, Canada, Finland, etc., that have done it right. We need to bring the best attributes, the best institutions that these countries have developed to Mongolia. Also, we need to watch out for the bad experiences. We need to watch out for the bad experiences in other countries, including some of the Asian countries, the so-called tigers, that have not been able yet to cover the gap between the rich and the poor. In terms of the natural curse, we need to not let our future generations, this young generation and future generations to become complacent, to become arrogant. We need to cultivate the culture of constantly learning, striving to be better, and making people of Mongolia the most responsible citizens of this planet. The economy needs to diversify. We cannot have our economy depend on the commodities only. Commodities will run out. The government, with its people, needs to focus on developing good financial markets. We need to develop our tourism cashmere, wool industry, skin, agriculture. We have land, arable land, and we need to first become self-sustainable in terms of food. We need to become self-sustainable in terms of our energy. We need to bring the best technologies that are available out there, such as the wind power, the solar panel power, have a huge potential in Mongolia. Energy independence will become a crucial issue for the up-and-coming wolf economy. Fairy tale of Cinderella. You all know Cinderella, Unskilchum. I call the phenomenon that we are going through right now the modern-day Cinderella story. It is unfolding right now here in front of us. We are being part of making that story. We don't want it to just be a fairy tale. We need to watch out for the dangers. We want to live happily thereafter. And here I would like to quote one Russian poet, well-known poet, Pushkin. I'll say it in Russian. Сказка ложь, давний намек, добрым молодцам урок. In Mongolian it goes like, үлгэр бол худлаа байдаг. Гэхдээ түүнд үнэн оршдог. Сайн залуус сургаал болдог. The fairy tale is a lie, but there is a hint of truth in it. And it should serve as a lesson to good people. So I wish Mongolia lives happily thereafter. We come to that end. I wish we become responsible global citizens, take our fair share of the global issues, actually take a leadership in resolving some of the issues, demonstrating what can be done and why it is important, even for a country such as Mongolia, to be a leader in focusing on global issues such as environment, such as peace in the region. And I believe in our people, the people who believe that we descended from the sky, who still carry when we were born on our backs the blue spot, a symbol, a merit of a piece of the sky that we carry to prove the legend that I said, that I told you about earlier. We say we are Tingirlik, which means we are skyish people, and I believe in the power of the eternal sky. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you.